Everyone remembers who Alice is and her adventure in a world where nothing makes sense. The unbirthday is celebrated, the dialogues are riddles, and she is invited to a celebration where they constantly offer her tea but never serve it. So, what does this entire journey mean? What does each character represent? And how does this resemble our own world? In reality, this is a story about growing up. On a summer day in an English park, Alice listens to her sister reading a boring history book and sneaks away to lie down near a river. She dreams of a world of her own where everything would be reversed, where what isn't would be, and the impossible would be possible. A place where cats and rabbits would be like people, and flowers would sing and talk to her. Suddenly, she sees a white rabbit with glasses, a red vest, and a large golden pocket watch. The frantic rabbit exclaims that he is late, awakening Alice's curiosity, who follows him down a rabbit hole. As Alice ventures into the hole, it suddenly sinks, causing Alice to fall. In the midst of the fall, her dress inflates, slowing her descent. Floating, Alice takes the opportunity to observe the decorations adorning the walls of the rabbit hole. Finally, she lands gently and follows the rabbit to a hallway with a very small door. The doorknob suggests she drink from a bottle labeled "Drink Me" that mysteriously appears on a glass table to pass through. Alice drinks and shrinks to the appropriate size, but the doorknob informs her that the door is locked. Frustrated, Alice sees the key appear on the table, now unreachable due to her small size. The doorknob then materializes a box of cookies marked "Eat Me" and tells her they will help her reach the key. Eating a cookie, Alice grows so much that her head and legs get stuck in the passage. Very frustrated, Alice begins to cry, and her enormous tears flood the room, forming large puddles. The doorknob reminds her that the bottle labeled "Drink Me" still has liquid. So, Alice calms down, drinks a bit more, and suddenly shrinks enough to fit inside the bottle. Inside the bottle, she passes through the doorknob's mouth and reaches a sea formed by her own tears. Alice's journey can be interpreted as a metaphor for her transition from childhood to adulthood. From this perspective, I will analyze the entire story. Initially, the previous scene where Alice immerses herself in her own tears can be interpreted as a symbol of baptism. In many cultures, baptism represents a form of initiation, marking the transition or beginning of a new phase of life. For Alice, this act symbolizes her passage into adulthood. In that place, Alice observes a group of animals led by a dodo running in circles around a rock to dry themselves. To Alice, this method of drying seems absurd since the waves continue to wet them. Following the dodo's orders, she joins them, but upon spotting the white rabbit, she leaves the group and follows him to a clearing in a dense forest. There she meets Tweedledum and Tweedly, two brothers fond of poems and songs. Although Alice wants to keep looking for the rabbit, the brothers detain her and recite a poem, and when they prepare another, Alice sneaks away and reaches the white rabbit's house. Seeing her, the rabbit mistakes her for his maid and demands that she fetch his gloves from his bedroom. Inside, Alice finds another box of cookies and, eating one, grows so much that she gets stuck in the house, with her arms and legs sticking out of windows and doors. The white rabbit, believing Alice to be a monster, seeks help from the dodo. The dodo calls Bill, a lizard chimney sweep, to pull her out through the chimney. But upon seeing Alice, Bill gets scared and tries to flee. The dodo pushes him toward the chimney, and in the commotion, soot stirs up, and Alice sneezes, launching Bill into the air. The dodo tries to burn the house using the white rabbit's broken furniture. In her frantic search to shrink back, Alice finds a carrot in the rabbit's garden, eats it, and shrinks to 10 centimeters. Growing up involves learning to think and act for oneself, evaluating situations with one's own judgment and making decisions that don't solely depend on what others say. So far, we have seen that the most important moments of Alice's progress occur when she decides to act on her own instead of following others' orders. For example, at the beginning, Alice obediently follows the dodo and his group, but only advances when she decides to separate and follow her path. Similarly, when the Tweedle brothers detain her, she remains stuck until she decides to escape. We just saw that the white rabbit mistakes her for his maid and asks her to fetch his gloves. Alice obeys and gets stuck, but manages to free herself by eating a carrot that allows her to change size and move forward. As Alice begins to question orders and trust her ability to decide, she transforms from a passive rule follower to a more mature and autonomous individual. The rabbit escapes to a garden of flowers, and Alice follows him. Due to Alice's size, the flowers are like trees to her. At first, the flowers, thinking Alice is one of them, sing and dance, but upon learning she is not a flower, they suspect she might be a weed and expel her. Alice gets upset by their treatment, but her anger dissipates when she meets a blue caterpillar blowing smoke rings forming letters and symbols. The caterpillar asks who she is, to which Alice responds that she has changed so much that she doesn't know. While Alice tries to understand who he is, the caterpillar interrupts, demanding she recite various strange poems. Tired of his bad temper, Alice decides to leave, but the caterpillar calls her back to tell her something important. Somewhat annoyed, Alice returns. The caterpillar questions Alice about her concern, and she explains that she wants to be taller because she feels too small. Annoyed by her discontent with a height similar to his, the caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. Before leaving, he gives her enigmatic advice about the mushroom he rests on. One side will make her grow, and the other will make her shrink. The caterpillar seems to be a reflection of Alice herself. Alice is a girl on the cusp of maturity, as defined in the Victorian era, while the caterpillar will soon reach maturity by transforming into a butterfly. In her conversation with the caterpillar, Alice expresses her confusion about her identity and the changes she is going through. This confusion is characteristic of puberty, a stage where young people often feel lost, sometimes feeling too big for certain childish activities but still too small for adult responsibilities. Alice's repeated size changes in the movie can be interpreted as a reflection of this confusion, part of her maturation process. Alice takes pieces from each side. Biting the first piece, she grows so much that her head rises above the trees, scaring a mother bird who mistakes her for a serpent. Biting the second piece, she shrinks to 10 centimeters. Finally, with a small lick of the first piece, she returns to her normal size and saves the rest in her pockets. While exploring the forest, she finds herself at a crossroads, not knowing which direction to take. Then appears the Cheshire Cat, a feline with a disturbing smile that appears and disappears at will. Alice asks him for a path to follow, and the cat responds that the direction depends on where she wants to go. When Alice says she doesn't care, the cat replies that in that case, any path will do. He also suggests she consult the March Hare about the rabbit, pointing out where he lives, warning that he too is mad. Alice expresses her reluctance to deal with mad people, and the cat assures her that this is inevitable since everyone here is mad. Alice then encounters a long outdoor tea table where the March Hare, the Mad Hatter, and a dormouse are celebrating their unbirthday, a festivity for days when it's not your birthday. They invite her to join, but the celebration is chaotic. They offer her tea, but never actually serve it. Suddenly, the White Rabbit reappears, worried about the time. The Hatter discovers the rabbit's watch is broken, and with the March Hare's help, they try to fix it but end up destroying it. They then expel the rabbit from the table. Alice, tired of the Mad Hatter and the March Hare and their absurd tea, tries to follow the rabbit, but he disappears again. Alice soon gives up looking for the rabbit and focuses on returning home. However, she gets lost in the Tulgey Wood, a place full of strange creatures that either disdain or ignore her. Confused and yearning for the familiar, Alice realizes that Wonderland is entirely different from what she had imagined, lamenting having left her real life. Overwhelmed and regretful, she confesses that although she knows what to do, she often does it wrong. For me, the White Rabbit, always in a hurry and carrying a watch, represents time that never stops. Alice chases him throughout her journey, which to me reflects her resistance to growing up. However, like time, the rabbit always escapes because growth is inevitable and cannot be stopped. Now, Alice has decided to stop looking for him, which could mean she is accepting that she has grown up. But this means she now needs to find her own path. Suddenly, the Cheshire Cat reappears. Alice tells him she wants to go home, but doesn't know her way. The Cheshire Cat enigmatically responds that this is normal because she has no path here, the only paths belong to the Queen of Hearts. Alice asks how she will find the Queen. The cat opens a door in a tree, revealing a distant castle. However, he warns that those who meet the Queen tend to lose their heads. Alice, determined to return home, follows the path shown by the cat, eventually reaching the Queen's palace. The castle is a surreal place with card soldiers painting white roses red to please the Queen of Hearts, who despises white roses. The Queen arrives, meeting Alice, and invites her to play croquet. The croquet game is bizarre. Flamingos serve as mallets, hedgehogs as balls, and card soldiers form the arches. The rules change at the Queen's whim, making the game chaotic. Despite this, Alice manages to play, showing her growing adaptability. The Queen, however, accuses Alice of cheating and orders her execution. The Cheshire Cat appears again, encouraging Alice to stand up for herself. Alice argues with the Queen, who demands a trial. At the trial, the evidence and accusations are nonsensical, reflecting the absurdity of authoritarianism. The King of Hearts presides as judge, with the jurors being various Wonderland characters. Alice, using the advice and wisdom gained during her journey, defends herself, questioning the Queen's authority and the legitimacy of the trial. As Alice speaks out, she begins to grow in size, symbolizing her increasing confidence and power. The Queen, frightened, orders her beheading. Alice, now towering over the court, laughs off the threat, realizing her own strength. Suddenly, Alice wakes up in the park, with her sister still reading the book. She realizes it was all a dream but feels profoundly changed. With a new perspective, Alice approaches life with greater maturity and self-assurance. The adventures in Wonderland have taught her valuable lessons about independence, courage, and trusting her own judgment. Alice's journey through Wonderland is not just an exploration of a fantastical world, but a metaphor for her internal journey of self-discovery and growth. Facing absurdity and illogic has prepared her to handle real-world challenges with an open mind and strengthened determination. In real life, everyone goes through phases of confusion and challenge while growing up. Alice's story reminds us that although the path to maturity may be filled with paradoxes and trials, each experience brings us closer to understanding who we are and what we truly value. In the end, Alice's Wonderland is both a land of fantasy and a reflection of her evolving mind and heart. It is a testament that even in the most bewildering moments, we can find clarity and purpose in our own journey to adulthood.